There we are gonna hearing about ClimSA Programme, which aims to enhance climate services in ACP countries. And it includes 47 least developed countries and 37 small island developing states. And it has been focusing on improving climate predictions for agriculture, for health, water, disaster risk reduction, and energy sectors. And key activities have been including technical support, capacity building, institutional strengthening, and policy integration to enhance decision making. And there's been many partners involved in the efforts, and beneficiaries include organizations such as ACP, SADC, and SPREP. And we will be hearing more from the program from Mrs. Patricia Mallam, who is a Fijian social scientist specializing in science communication, disaster risk reduction, and stakeholder engagement. And she's based in Apia as the knowledge broker for ClimSA, and is also a PhD student, so clearly has a lot of energy to do many things at the same time. And her thesis is focusing on the climate services value chain for agriculture. So floor is yours, Mrs. Mallam.
Thank you, Katja, and good morning from Apia, everyone. It's really nice to see so many of you online and joining this webinar. So I wanted to just give you an overview of the environment that we're operating in. So Intra-ACP ClimSA Pacific operates across 14 Pacific Island countries. However, we have 2 pilot countries, which are Kiribati and Samoa, and we're also supporting Tonga and Nauru. So my presentation will very quickly go over the things that we're doing on a regional level, which connects to the private sector, as well as on a national level. And before deep diving into that, I wanted to give you just a snapshot of how ClimSA Pacific has been benefiting the region already. So we began a little after COVID. Our project implementation was delayed due to COVID, and the nature of the geography that we currently operate in restricts a lot of the activities being implemented because we need to travel into certain countries in order to make activities happen. So far, we've done country technical assessments. We've also reactivated the Pacific Regional Climate Center, which will become the flagship for distributing climate information, climate services and climate information products. We've also been supporting the Pacific Islands Climate Outlook Forums, which are quite similar to the ARCOFs in the other regions, as well as the National Climate Outlook Forums and the review of critical mechanisms. So in the Pacific, the climate services are the systems that we are using to develop the best available climate information for end users, but reminding ourselves that it needs to be most usable and accessible. So in the region, we have challenges with infrastructure. So what might work in other regions in relation to dissemination through digital platforms will not necessarily work here, especially in regions where we don't even have access to electricity or internet. So a lot of times we're going to do extension service-like activities similar to what we would do in remote farming communities. Some of the major project wins we have seen already is the development of glossary of climate and meteorological terms, and conducting assessments to help develop mechanisms that improve climate services, and also just databases of images, graphics, which we use in communicating our climate services. One of our major project wins so far, and this links quite well to mainstreaming or making climate information accessible for all, is the development of a glossary of common meteorological terms in Oceania Sign. So I'm not sure if many of you are aware, but sign language varies from country to country. And in the Pacific region, with 14 countries, each with a different sign for a different term, we developed through ClimSA support a common language, and now we're beginning to roll this out in the form of training material for everyone. So now taking you closer to the topic of discussion today, which is climate services. And on a regional level, we've been engaging with the regional tourism organization, and tourism in the Pacific is one of the most one of the most viable economic drivers. And globally, it has been impacted. We've seen a lot of global data on how disasters are impacting international tourism. However, in the Pacific region, while we do have statistics that show the link between tourism, economy, and the growth and the sustainability of Pacific tourism and how important climate services is, what we do lack is socioeconomic benefit data. We also lack robust data on how disasters impact the private sector directly, especially the tourism sector. So what we've been looking at is how the Caribbean has rolled out some of its tourism climatic bulletins. And this is one of the benefits of the Intra-ACP ClimSA program, is that we're able to tap into the resources across other regions. So CIMH has been quite active in this space, and we're looking at how they've managed to co-develop products for the tourism sector. And this was proposed to the South Pacific Tourism Organization Board, and I'm glad to say that they've accepted it. So in our initial discussions with them, we conducted stakeholder mapping, and we asked them some very basic questions, and it was quite evident that they do use climate or weather information for their work. When we dug a bit deeper, we found out that they do not get this information from the national or the regional Met services. So that begs the question of where is this data coming from? What is the validity of it? So those are the additional questions that we're now beginning to use to co-develop. We also asked them what part of the work requires climate and weather, and we got some real good insights with regards to planning, climate risk to develop programs, events for private sector like trade and media for mills for international visitors, and a lot of things related to marine tourism, because in the Pacific, that we're all connected by the ocean. And when we did ask, what sort of services would you like to know more about, a lot of them mentioned extreme weather and early warning, and also being part of the regional climate center activities. So that was on a more regional level. And now I'll take you for a short trip to the other side of the Pacific. So Christmas Island is in Kiribati, and Kiribati has the world's largest EEZ. So Kiribati is the largest atoll in the world, and it is a very popular international tourism destination. But it also has one of the most unique solar salt farms, and it is in a hypersaline lagoon known as Manulu. And because it is so remote and so unique and so pristine, they've got the ideal conditions for producing high quality salt. And they export exclusively to Japan, and it is used for gastronomy and high value beauty products, among a few others. So because of its remoteness, it makes the product that they create so unique and valuable. And when we had our first engagement with them in reconvening the National Climate Outlook Forum, we had a representative from the solar salt company talk to us about wanting more information on how to better plan their businesses. And the kind of information that they also gave the National Met Service was quite insightful, because they were able to inform the National Met Service on some of the additional work that the private sector in the marine space are doing. And this created a very valuable two-way communication. Also, like the previous speaker alluded to, data. This is something that we lack quite a lot here in the Pacific, and through the support from ClimSA, we're hoping to strengthen the data collection, but also data analysis. And one of the things that we find is a critical need is to conduct a socioeconomic benefit analysis right across the value chain, not just in agriculture, but also in the other sectors that we're working in the disaster risk reduction space. Because once we do establish those baselines, then we'll be able to understand the critical intervention points and the value that ClimSA's intervention is having, not just on a regional, but on a national level. Thank you very much. I hope I stuck to the 8 minutes time frame.
You did very well. Thank you. Thank you very much for the insight, Mrs. Mallam. And it shows clearly that climate services are crucial for many sectors, tourism included, and this extreme weather and early warnings information systems are really important, as well as remembering to the social economic aspect in looking into the good entry points and what type of interventions work the best. Thank you so much. I will maybe ask if you could elaborate a little bit more how these data-driven approaches have maybe already influenced national policies on disaster preparedness or water resource management or some other things like that, more on like a policy level, or have you gotten that far as yet?
Thank you, Katja. At the moment, we have, like we've built a case for the need for robust and credible data across all of the countries, and now more on a national level as our pilot countries are working towards developing their own national frameworks for climate services. And one of the things that they've realized is there is a critical need for this data in order to, validate some of the requests that they have of their own government. So, for example, the annual budgeting process that governments would go through in order to qualify for budget increases for, the maintenance of equipment or for the recruitment of specialized staff and personnel to carry out activities within the Met services that benefit the industry. There is a need for data to show what would be the potential impact of this. So we've gotten to that stage, and we're hoping that as the ClimSA program in the Pacific continues to roll out, we will see more of, more credible data being documented. In saying that, I have to say that in the Pacific, we do have data, but it's not cataloged, it is not documented, because our culture, like culturally, the Pacific is very oral in nature. So a lot of the information is stored, in art, in stories, and in songs and dances. And this is where the traditional knowledge component comes in quite strongly in the climate services and in the Met services in the region. But we're now hoping to combine tradition and innovation by making sure that we have a digital repository of all of this data, but also making sure that the data goes through a quality control process so that it's not just opinion or someone said something. So check back with us in a year's time, and we'll be glad to share with you the data sets that we've collected, also the dashboards that we're looking at developing, especially for disaster risk reduction in the region.
Thank you for this additional insight. Sounds very interesting. And I think these challenges on how to capture the existing local knowledge and traditional knowledge and practitioners' knowledge and put it in the format that is also then usable for more scientific use. I think that's a challenge that is faced in many parts. I myself work a lot with farmers, and there's the same issue that farmers have really a lot of knowledge how to adapt into different situations and how to improve soil and so on, but it's not always in a way that is easily understandable for the, let's say, traditional science. Thank you very much. Now I see a hand up. Please introduce Mr. Faka. Please introduce yourself and to who you have a question. Floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. My name is Mr. Faka. I'm the team leader of ClimSA at the global level. We are based at the Secretariat of the OACPS in Brussels. I would like really to intervene to complement my colleague Patricia in terms of the strategy we are building on data sharing. Of course, in terms of ClimSA strategy, we are building what we call user interface platform, where users and the producers of the climate information are sitting together, designing together what we call the co-design, the co-productions. If you are already part of the platform, so data access becomes very easy because you are contributing on the product development. So that's what we are intending to establish in all the RCCs in the OACPS region, to have a strong user interface. That's really the strategy. By the end of this strategy, data will be available, people will contribute. For the private sectors, I would like to say, yes, there is also an option of what we call public-private engagement, which is an initiative led by WMO, which is encouraging the private sector from the university or even from the management or the entrepreneurship to come together. If you have developed, for example, a sensor to measure any parameters, we can build a partnership with you. If you are contributing in the equipment, we need to validate your product because you know that any equipment, electronic equipment or digital equipment, sometimes can really differ or can have different, what we call calibrations. So the MET department those are having the authority for gathering those data and also calibrating any new equipment. So we are open to anyone in the regions having innovative for data collection. We can put together our effort and to see how to push climate action with science-based products. Thank you.